Welcome to the Oracle Scroll. This is a new year, a new decade, and a new beginning. We have a new look and a new sound. So we appreciate you joining us today. I'm Kevin Walder, your host, and I will be joined by guests along the way as we assemble information on how we can make this our best life, how we can create the world we live in. For joining us this evening. And this evening, we are going to talk about a program that I had put together a couple of years ago. Well, it's been more than that, but I put together a program that was an obsession of mine for a while. If anybody else ever has this kind of energy where you end up just focused on something so keenly that you can't let go of it. It keeps you awake at night. It's the first thing you think about in the morning and the last thing you think about at night. That's where I was with this. And I don't yet quite understand exactly why, other than the fact that it's something that is kind of near and dear to all of us and helping us to understand ourselves. And I think sometimes we are the most misunderstood creatures on earth because we kind of like it that way for some reason. I don't know why, but we tend to misunderstand each other and misunderstand ourselves. So that's why I put together this particular program, which I call Self-Exam Series. This particular one is about authenticity. The ebooks that I've sent are the exact copies of this. I just have it printed in sort of a booklet form so that it's easier for me to handle. So what is our authenticity? Let me get my picture out of the way here. What is authenticity? How do I want others to see me, to view me? And probably the biggest question is, what labels have I chosen for myself? When it comes to labels, and this is something that I really feel very strongly about, furniture, clothing, food, those are things that need labels. People, not so much. And I think we do ourselves a great disservice when we seek labels. We seek to provide ourselves with labels, and they may or may not be factual. They may or may not be accurate in their description of us. They may be things that we're aspiring to, or they may be things that we've outgrown. Okay, some labels we're born with, some labels we inherit from our ancestors. Other labels are cast upon us when we get to school or we get to church, or some labels are given to us by other people around us. And some, probably the stickiest ones, are the ones that we choose for ourselves, whether they are our own invention or someone has suggested we might, and then we go ahead and choose that label. How sticky is that label? Can you use a little goof off and get it off, or is it going to stick for a long time? And labels have a way of sticking around. So what labels have I chosen for myself? Again, those are the stickiest ones that we have to peel off and get rid of. Labels do not identify us. They do not identify our core being or any of the values that we might hold dear. Okay? When we are introduced to someone, what's the first thing we talk about? Oftentimes it's what we do for a living. Or it might be about our family. It might be about where we lived, where we went to school. There's a lot of peripheral information that we provide that has absolutely nothing to do with us and who we are. And I kind of included this little red label here. Remember that tag that was on all the furniture that you remember, those tags you ripped off when you were a kid? That's what this, under penalty of law, do not remove this label. And that is something that we are, that's what we're dealing with. We are removing labels, and we're doing it as gleefully as possible. Okay. So how do we discover what our true identity is? How do we discover what identity is ours alone and can never be taken from us no matter what? So that's where we start with the questions. First of all, is the identity we have chosen a true one? Or is it an identity that could be changed? So we all walk into these, a ballroom. We walk into a meeting, and we project a particular perception to everyone around us. How does that perception actually measure up to reality? Okay, are we pretending? Are we there aspiring to be something that we haven't quite attained yet? Or is it really us? Are we really putting our best face forward? Oh, I'm sorry, I keep moving that around and it's not helping. What compels us to put up a front? And what makes us afraid that others might see the real us? What is it that we need to filter in order to be seen as we want to be seen? So let's get busy and do a little exercise. What is the core identity? And if you've noticed, I put 4 colors here on the page. If you are a red person, you would identify yourself as being a natural leader and a motivator. A Tony Robbins of sort, okay? Someone who just is charismatic and almost, you can't avoid them. When you walk into a room, you zero in on that person. That's a red personality, okay? If you're a blue, you might identify as saying something like I said here, I lead with my heart. My heart guides me. My heart leads me to the people and the places that I need to be. And I put my emotional, I get emotionally attached very easily. Silver. If you're a silver person, you might say that logical reasoning makes things easier for me. I enjoy nothing more than sitting down and analyzing things from every angle and understanding every point of view. That's stimulating to me, that kind of conversation. And if you're a green person, you might identify as being your happiest when you're being a refuge for others. When you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart for a neighbor, a friend, or a relative, when you're doing something to help, then that is what speaks to you. And that's what makes your life worth living and worth keeping up. So who wants to go first? Did we have a red in our group? And now I've just taken you all away, so let me put you back. Did we have a red in our group? Just wave your hand. Okay. Michael says he's a red. That's very good. Thank you, Michael. How about blue? Anybody's a blue? I'm a blue. I'll admit to being a blue myself. Yeah, I'm a blue. I'm not going to say any more about that. How about silver? Is anyone a silver that is very into just thinking, reasoning, and enjoying the debate side of things? Oh boy, you've been hog heaven at this time of year. Anybody silver? No? How about green? I'm at my happiest. Okay, Norman's a green. Okay, so red, blue, green. We just don't have a silver represented. Todd, did you have a vote? No. And Sophie, did you oh, hang on just a second, Sophie. Let me unmute you for. Okay, I've unmuted you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm a combination. I'm not one thing exactly.
Well, most of us are, and that's okay. What I would suggest is pick the thing that is strongest pull. Where do you live most of the time? And then that's what we want to talk about, is the one thing that is the strongest pull. Where does your mind go when you let your mind wander? Okay, so think about that. That's okay. It's all right. I'll put you, Sophie is undecided.
Yes, undecided.
Sophie is going to be mauve. Okay, I'm gonna put you back on mute so I can go ahead with the rest of and I have to shrink the thing down so the pictures go away and I can see the rest of my text here. Okay, so Michael, for you, and if you can unmute yourself and just identify which one is easiest for you. So again, pick the one that best describes yourself. And just like we said with Sophie, it may not be true all the time, but the one thing that is the most often, that's the way you feel most of the time.
Right.
Okay.
I would choose as R1 here.
Okay.
Yeah. Always, exploring and expressing a new truth is interesting, but confident in my core abilities.
Okay. Very good. Okay, and you're playful enough to enjoy a new way of understanding and expressing. So, all right, that's perfect. That is perfect. Now, I said this is elements of tarot. Do you know who you've just identified yourself as?
Me?
Yes.
No. But the words I like are confident and playful. I'm confident in my playfulness. So there.
Okay. You're playing the role of the Page of Wands.
Ah.
You're the youthful exuberance and enthusiasm and fire. You're full of the fire element. You want to get things done. You want to make things happen. That's important to you.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make
sense?
Right. Okay. So there you go. You're a Page of Wands.
Why, thank you.
And all right.
I think they're magic wands, aren't they?
Yes, they are. They're fiery anyway. They're definitely fiery. Let's see here. I am going to call myself a blue 2, a B2. Yeah, I form intense emotional connections, will defend them without regard for my own emotional well-being. And sometimes that can be. So I've just identified myself as the Knight of Cups. All right. And let's see, we said, hang on a second here, we said that Norman was a green. Well, great, that's perfect. So Norman, can you tell us what you think there? Which one of those describes you best? And I'm going to have to unmute you. Hang on. There we go. Go ahead.
I said, as I looked at these, I'm not any of them because I'm not a physical competitor.
Okay.
I guess I misread that. I thought that the one was happiest when it was working with others.
Okay.
And
this is more physical.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. They're both the same actually.
Okay.
So
I spent a lifetime working with others and being a refuge for my students and anyone else who pounds on my door, I guess.
You are then.
I'm very comfortable with that. Yes.
What you're telling me then is you are identifying as a G green 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
because that's the joy of feeding, clothing, and caring for those I love, and seeing their loving appreciation fulfills me.
Mhm.
Okay? That makes you the queen of coins. Okay?
Okay.
So those are, I mean, think about those characters as I look at them, they are characters that we actually embody. We carry them around with us, and we use their energy and their outlook to form our opinions and form our relationships. So, all right. Sophie, did you have any? Hang on one second. I have to unmute you again.
You're okay. Are you unmuting me?
Yes, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
I think G4 comes closest to what I am.
Ah, okay. Working with your hand. Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Sense of accomplishment. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's great. Well, then that makes you the king of coins.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your energy is you're assertive and you're creative, and that's a
Yeah.
those are energy signatures that you need. So
Uh-huh.
king of coins. All right. And we had nobody show up as a silver, huh? Is that true, Todd? You're not. Okay, so
No,
no one.
sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
initially thought maybe that would be me, but after reading these, no,
Okay.
it doesn't actually fit me. So,
Well, some are. I mean, again, one may stand out as having more.
I mean, if I had to pick out of the four,
Okay.
it'd be S1 would be the closest, but
S1, eager student. Okay, yeah, I'd say that's true. There's nothing that gets Todd excited more than trying to research things. And okay, so that is then the page of swords is what you have identified yourself as. So we have two pages in our midst, and the page of wands is that's how Michael identified himself. He is full of fire and creativity, and he's making things happen all around him. He's constantly exploring and finding new ways to make life interesting. Okay. And then we have Todd being a page of swords, which says he kind of enjoys he kind of enjoys taking the circuitous route. He enjoys looking at things from a totally different standpoint, and maybe even understanding things in a different way, so that he's taking that thought process and transforming it into something that is more useful for him. So that may be partly why he didn't recognize anything as actually speaking to him at the beginning, because that was just an issue with trying to determine which of those things is most outstanding. So now the fun part starts. What is this incarnation all about? This is a little bit of a long list. There are parts of this list on 3 pages of this booklet. So kind of go through there. If you were to pick any of these things: being a free spirit, being a spiritual leader, being the ultimate mother, or being the ultimate provider, being a disciplinarian, the enforcer, somebody's got to be a cop, seeking love, all right, or being a strong motivator. And you can kind of check off anything that sounds like it's close, and we'll come back to them in a few minutes and see which ones stack up. So let's see, there we go. And then the rest of the list continues: setting an example of strength, being a lone wolf. That's something I struggle with all the time. Is I do not really work well as a lone wolf, and yet I end up there a lot. um, I don't work well with a lot of restrictions and rules, but I prefer to have a more kind of interactive kind of relationship with those that I work with. So, is being a lone wolf important to you? Does learning to go with the flow fit? And that's what this lifetime, what have you spent most of your time doing, I guess is the best way to put this. Learning fairness and balance. Maybe being an attorney or a judge. Being an explorer. Finding new areas to explore. Learning detachment. Learning to let go and to be free, to be a free spirit. Being creative in whatever way. Is this incarnation about overcoming an addiction? Experiencing drama in your life? Is it about being a beacon of hope? Or is it about learning to see beneath the surface? And then the last three, is it all about personal growth or experiencing spiritual rebirth or being an example of having it all? So, if you were to decide out of this list what your calling is, what is it that has made this incarnation, what is it about for you? And I guess we can start with Michael if you're ready. Michael, do you have an input on that? I'm trying to unmute you. There we go.
Got it. All of them. Yeah.
Wow, you're a busy guy.
Double Libra, very busy. The thing that really resonates is the free spirit.
Okay.
But that I identify as kind of a core. But that flows into mainly my creativity, and then in my work as a metaphysician in the consulting, there's a lot of the strong motivator, the listener. So a lot of these other qualities plug in as branches, I guess, of what I do. But when I come back to just core me, it's the free spirit and the spiritual exploration in this life versus material things.
Okay. So you're a page of wands who is called here to be a fool.
Oh.
And that actually works really well, because the fool has a lot of childlike characteristics, a lot of exploration, a lot of he has a lot of disregard for conventional wisdom. And that's where you are, right?
Yeah. Okay. Totally.
So that's I mean, if you think about, okay, this is core stuff. This doesn't have anything to do with your titles or whatever you might. It's more who you would be without any of those titles. Yeah. Oh, and that's another way to look at it too, is who would you be without your titles? That's another aspect of this project. Okay. Right. But getting to know ourselves in this kind of a way is, to me, it's totally interesting. It keeps us, moving in the right direction with keeping us honest. It keeps it real. So, okay, I'll put you back on mute, and then. I went next, so I will say I don't know. I have a difficult time with this one because part of me, I have had a long-standing joke when I used to have a job in an office that everyone wanted to know what I was going to be doing, and as far as what my career really was going to be, and I said, well, I just want to be addressed as Your Eminence, and after that, it's so something. So I guess then that makes the spiritual leader kind of top, but I hesitate to go there, I guess, but being creative is very important to me. I enjoy, in fact, I do things on my phone these days that I just enjoy playing with the creativity. So I'm going to say that I'm being creative is my calling. So I'm a Knight of Cups, and let's see. Oh goodness, now I've lost track of what card that is. I'll have to go back and find that. I'll do that. So I'm going to go down to Norman. Go ahead, Norman. Tell us all about you.
Wow. um, I'm very much into the spiritual realm. I'm a minister.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe in motivating people and offering them hope when they see none. Boy, these are really good. I guess I have 17 books published. I suppose I'm creative. I don't know.
There you go.
Whether that's, I look at creativity, I guess, more in the art world.
Okay.
Something rather than novel and book writing. I think that does it for me, really. I'm very much into metaphysics, Michael. It's just phenomenal.
Uh-huh.
I think that'll do it.
Okay. So what did you pick then? I didn't.
Well, I picked them all.
You picked them all. Okay. Well, and we have aspects of all of them. That is true. I get that. And now you're being the queen of coins. You're kind of a provider. You're one who can take a situation of lack and bring things together so that no one notices the lack. Or you see what I'm saying? You help to put things together in such a way that people feel comfortable without realizing anything is missing or anything is not exactly as it should be. You kind of smooth things over. That's your nature as the Queen of Cups. And so, yeah, she's got a little bit of all these things. She's an explorer. She's learned detachment. She's learned how to let go and not to mourn the losses. She has to be creative because she has to put things together to keep her family alive and keep things moving and keep the kids fed. She's had to overcome addiction, most likely, or at least assist in someone else's drama. So I can see that you've got them all.
And it's one of those things, a journey of life.
Yes,
really.
It is. Well, and as we get further along the path, we can sort of look back and say, oh, okay, I did this, I did that, I did this well, and I wish I'd have done better at that. That kind of thing. So you
have a desire to do better, I think. It's
always.
Yeah.
Always.
I'm loving this. This is marvelous, Kevin. I'm just so impressed with all that you're doing. I'm just sort of bug-eyed about it all.
Well, thank you. I had more fun doing this, and it was, oh my goodness, was it not easy. And I got it all put together, and I tried to move it to a different format, and literally it fell into pieces, and I had to reassemble everything.
You've never published it?
It's I have used it in classes a couple of times, but it's on my website now.
I might recommend a publisher to you.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to
It's good.
follow up with that.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Mhm.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna put you back on mute, and then we'll talk to Sophie. Let's see, Sophie. There you are. You're unmuted now, Sophie.
Okay, good. Okay. I've looked at this and I start with one thing and it seems like it leads to other things. It branches into other things.
Yes.
As I've always been an explorer. I want to learn something new. I want to go and figure out things. And I just love doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads me to creative. I have to
Mm-hmm.
be creative in doing that. You also have to be a lone wolf to do that.
Yeah.
But I find as I've matured, I've used all this to be a motivator.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know and I can teach and I can show people how to go and where to go and things like that. So
Okay.
it all ties together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So did you have was there a particular 2 or 3 or?
I think the explorer,
Okay.
and very much so as I've matured, I'm a motivator.
Okay. Yes. Understood. Okay. So you know what? I messed up because I didn't memorize these things well enough to remember which card was which. Would have helped if I'd have numbered them. So let me see. Hang on one second here while I go. The Explorer. The Explorer is Hanged Man. So yeah, Hanged Man. That's great. That's great.
I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my favorite card. I always talk about him being my favorite card. What did I say was mine? I didn't say that, did I? So being creative is the Temperance card. It's the Alchemy card.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, and so those two, yes, they do work real well together. I love the Hanged Man because it is, it says to me that no matter what the situation, there's always a new perspective. You can change the way you see it. And I go back to Wayne Dyer's quote that he always used, that the more you change the way you look at things, the more the things you look at change. And I have to be, my tongue gets wrapped around my tooth on that one sometimes. I have to be careful. But yes, that is, it's exactly, it's so true. And I find it that way in my life all the time, that, stepping back and looking at something from a totally different standpoint. And I always say, hey, take your own little snow globe and shake it up and see where you stand, because
I like that.
you're going to learn things about yourself that, well, some of them you didn't want to know, and some of them it's kind of nice to, have a little forewarning. So, all right. I'll put you back on mute, Sophie, and then we'll talk to Todd if he's ready. Okay, Todd, go ahead.
Hello. Well, I've always been creative since I was a small child.
Mm-hmm.
So being creative is definitely one. And then also learning to see beneath the surface, which I think is part of why I ended up being a channel in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. That's the moon. So you're learning to see beneath the surface. You can see into the back corners and behind the drape, and you can see that man behind the cover there. So you know exactly what is making things happen. Mm-hmm. So, and you are being a childlike, enthusiastic, and the way you like to think about things. That actually works really well, because you can reconstruct. Maybe you should start doing algorithms. Those are things that everybody has to think about these days. All right, so do you see what we did with some creative ideas on the tarot? What I talk about with the tarot all the time is the fact that it is not just a bunch of cards. It is not just a plaything. It's not It's not something that is sort of a, you know, a dead kind of lifeless instrument. It can actually give us so much information because you get to write the book. You've got the basics, but each artist and each rendition of each card comes through in such a way that it gives us a whole different feel. And I mean, you'll know Sophie especially has done a lot of work with tarot with us. So she knows. I mean, when you look at the same card, 5 decks, let's say you pick, and I did this one year with the lovers cards for Valentine's Day, and I picked, I don't know, 5 or 7 decks. I picked a bunch of different decks and took each of their meanings, and they varied widely. Some of them were very staunch and medieval. They depicted wedding pictures, you know, things like that, that would, the processions. Another one, for the life of me, I can't think of the name right now. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it basically was outdoor sex. So it's like, you know, everybody has a slightly different view, a slightly different look at the meaning of the card, and you have to get them all basically to get a well-rounded view of each one. So as we wrap this part up, the question now is, what is it that keeps us from living the authentic life we long for and deserve? What painful story locks us into an inauthentic existence, and how can we break free? I wrote something else earlier on a different subject, but very similar subject. And it's about what we're taught as children and how we get all of our inspiration and all of our enthusiasm is taken away from us so that we fit in, so we can sit quietly for 8 hours a day in class, so we don't have to be outside playing. We can, you know, we can do the things that the adults think we need to do. And this is what I wrote, and I love what I said, so I'm going to read it for you. From the very first moment that we felt the chill of the outside world, and we struggled to open our eyes in the bright light that filled the cool air, we were forced to breathe in this new foreign environment. From that very moment, our life of dependency begins. As we grow and learn how to summon help and express our joy and displeasure, we break free of some of that dependency, but some of it stays with us for a lifetime. And this is the point of learning about ourselves. What would we have done with a little encouragement or with a little support when we were a child? Would we have lived the exact life that we've lived? Probably not. I grew up knowing I couldn't exist, knowing I was illegal, and I had to do something about that. I had to struggle and try to make a life out of that. At 40 years old, I discovered how to do it on my own. It's not an easy thing to talk about sometimes. But that's what inauthentic existence does to a person. It tears away at every fiber of your being until there's nothing left but skeletal remains. And we are all much more than skeletal. Oh, well, some of us are a lot more than skeletal remains. But the fact remains, we have to. That's not an existence. That's not what we were after. That's not a life. I guess I said that wrong. It is an existence, but it's certainly not a life. And that's not where we want to spend the years we have on this earth. So that's the point of what I did with this program. So using that personality information that we talked about, and mostly that was where we identified the characters that we are, we can start breaking down some of those false constructs that we have put together in our lives. Some of them are just out and out lies. Let's just be honest about that. Some of them are simply never going to come about. You are never going to fly without the aid of an airplane. So it's, there are some things you just simply can't put together. So how do we break those down? What makes an authentic self want to hide ourselves? Why do we need to hide the story of ourselves? And why have we devised ways to do just that? Inventing new ideas and identifications that mean absolutely nothing, but they give us that sense of importance. Dale Carnegie talked about a sense of importance being so important, key to everybody's existence. A sense of importance is key, but you have to be honest with it. And that will make the difference in whether it's livable or not. And then the last question I have is, how will it feel? And I can tell you it feels damn good. How will it feel to free ourselves of the energy drain of a false identity? And yes, as I just said, my little story at 40 years old, when I stepped back, when I stepped out of that old life, there was absolutely nothing more freeing. And had I even had an inkling of how that would have felt, I would have done it 20 years, maybe even longer, earlier. But I didn't. All I knew was what I was told. All I knew was what I was told by my church, by my school, by my teachers, and certainly by my parents, that this couldn't be. I couldn't exist. I simply shouldn't exist. So this is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning. So as we think about this over the next few days, think about how you might add things to your incarnation. In the case, except for Norman. Norman's got them all already. He can't add anything else. Everybody else gets a chance. So welcome to your spiritual exam. It's one that you will continue to take. And yeah, okay. I'm sitting here looking at this, and I've got a thing popping on my screen that's from Zoom. And I'm oh my God, what had happened to my Zoom? And they're just telling me that my payment processed. I forgot it happens on this kind of a day in the middle of the month. So, all right. So that is my tarot look at things as a spiritual self-exam. And I've got a few other ideas up my sleeve that'll fit into the same series, but will be a little different. I'm not so sure I'm going to do such an ornate little book again, because that was hard and very time consuming. So, and I hope everybody has gotten a chance to look it over. And if as you do, give me any kind of feedback. I would appreciate that too. So, all right, I'm going to unmute everybody and we'll just open up for discussion. Hopefully we'll be able to. All right, everybody's unmuted except for Todd. He went away. So what do you think?
Hey, well done.
Well,
Well done.
Very
Nice outline.
Excellent.
Good. Good. Does it make sense? I mean, there were times when I was putting it together. It's like, I wasn't sure it made sense to anybody but me.
I was a little concerned at the beginning that you were not going to tie this all into your opening remarks about how do you identify yourself. And you snuck it in there. And that's good. You know, because we are so much more than a name. We're so much more than a man, woman, mother, father, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
And sometimes we forget what that more is.
Right.
And you brought that very closely, right up to the surface.
Right. And the more is it, really. There's nothing else. All that other stuff that I was, you know, the what you do for a living, where you went to school, all that stuff, that doesn't describe you at all, really. I mean, deep down, it doesn't really tell you anything about your values, your core. So,
and I would like to add that core values are a pet peeve of mine because they're corrupt. They come to us not because we created them, but they were created for us, and we were expected to believe them. Mm-hmm. And we find as we experience that they're not holding true, and this causes all kinds of emotional issues, conflicts within households, families. And I would like you to come back another session and talk about just the core values and how we get them, and what do we do about them when we find out that they're not really what they're there, because you're good at that.
Well, actually, I've already started. The thing I was writing that I took the little excerpt about the newborn, it's pretty close to what you're just saying. It's pretty right on. So it may be closer than you think for me to do that.
I think he was saying something along the lines that I was thinking of. It says the false constructs that we have. We need to be able to identify those false constructs and to break them down.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing I've learned is get ready when you do that, because there are people around you who will not appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, I've already run into quite a few of them.
Oh, believe me, I had them run into me. So, it's, I had a cousin inquire as to how, and this is going to sound strange, but this is the way life is on this side of the tracks. I had a cousin call or email me from Indiana to find out how my mother was doing. And I said, well, I'm sorry, you'll have to speak with someone else. I haven't spoken to her in 5 years. And that's the nicest thing I can do for her. And that is, I said that on Facebook one day. Sometimes walking away is the nicest thing you can do in a given situation. There's just absolutely nothing to be retrieved from it. And that is, there are more people. I mean, I'm not saying this to be, it's not a pity party. It's just that it's the way life is. And there are a lot more people than we realize that are in that same position. So it's not easy. It's a difficult one, but sometimes that's, what it takes to be authentic. So go ahead, Michael.
I would say politely authentic. In describing your situation with your mother, you don't want to be negative or put off a bad vibe, and by sending that responsibility back to the inquirer, you empowered them to check it out instead of checking through you.
Right. Well, and it's and come to find out, the cousin was in a similar situation, had decided that it wasn't worth communicating and hadn't spoken to her for 3 years.
Oh,
I said, well, okay. So, that's life. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Oracle Scroll. Any questions, comments, or anything at all can be forwarded to us at theoraclescroll@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, you may check kevinwalder.com for any further information on the work of your host. And we appreciate you being with us and hope you will spread the word, let your family and friends know how much fun it is to attend the Oracle Scroll. See you next time.